Hello all you freaks out there on the internet. It is I, FritzRolle732, and welcome to FritzRolle732's MLP Grimdark Fanfic reviews. Now, we got ourselves a great episode for y'all. For this episode, I'm here to tell you guys my thoughts and opinions on the MLP Grimdark I Spoke to Miss Smarty Pants today. Now with that being said, let's get down to it. So let me start off with story details. So the story starts off with Twilight and Applejack talking about a sudden disappearance by Big Macintosh. And they start to wonder, like, is he with Shirley, or is he what happened to him? And sure enough, they just started shrugging their shoulders and, oh well, who knows? And it's late in the day, and Twilight gets back to the Golden Oak Library. Now, as she gets inside and arrives at the Golden Oak Library, all of a sudden she notices something strange. The Golden Oak Library is completely filled with darkness. Like, you can't see a thing. You can't even see the rays of Luna's moon shine through the window. You couldn't even see that. And sure enough, she calls down to Spike, but there's no response. So she checks on Spike in his bed, and Spike is not there. So after Twilight checks on Spike, all of a sudden she hears a creepy old lady type voice. And she is already like, who are you? What are you doing here? Where's Spike? And then the voice is just like, I'm sorry, Twilight, Spike is no longer with us. And the voice and her is just going back and forth, and then the voice is just finally says that, it's your old friend, do you not remember your old friend? And all that, and it's just, Twilight is just like, I don't know who you are. And all of a sudden, the voice just gives in, and she is just like, just look for me in the table. And sure enough, Twilight lights up a lamp, and she just searches on the table. Now, as soon as she gets closer to the table, she starts to feel a wet liquid on the floor. And when she puts out her hoof and checks the liquid, she notices that it's red, crimson, fresh blood. And on top of that, she sees a brown feather. And what could possibly possess a brown feather than her pet owl? As soon as she noticed this, all of a sudden, that's when the horror begins. And after that, she starts to see that on the table, it's her old doll, Smarty Pants. And she is just like, oh my god, this is not possible. This is just not right. You're with Big Mac. You're supposed to be with Big Mac.
Well, you know what they say. A toy always finds a way to get back to its owner.
And Twilight is just so flabbergasted. She is just so freaked out. Like, this is just not right. A doll cannot do this. Like, what is happening? You're supposed to be with Big Mac. If he finds out, he'll... And then Smarty Pants cuts off Twilight, and then she is like,
you really think Big Mac is that more alive? Well, guess again.
And all of a sudden, Twilight, she just zaps the hell out of Smarty Pants. And at first, we see nothing but ash. But then all of a sudden, the doll pops back up to life. And then she is just like, you're gonna have to do better than that. And then all of a sudden, Twilight just tries to escape. She tries to escape the door by pushing her whole body. It does not budge. She tries to escape through the balcony. It does not work. She tries using her magic. Her magic gives out. And she is just like, what could possibly be happening? Like, this is not right. This is not possible. A doll cannot do this. Like, yada, yada, yada. Same things all over again. And then all of a sudden, Smarty Pants is like,
I just want to be your friend. I just want us to talk. We got a lot of catching up to do.
And then Twilight's just like, no, leave me alone. I don't want to be your friend. Let me out, Smarty Pants. And then Smarty Pants is just like,
You know what, Twilight? I'm gonna give you to the count of 3. If you don't want to talk to me, I'm gonna have to make you talk.
And then all of a sudden, Smarty Pants is just on her back, like she's having a piggyback ride. And then all of a sudden, she starts counting 1. And then Twilight is just freaking out, like, no, please, leave me alone. Leave me alone. 2, I don't want to be your friend. Leave me alone.
3.
And then after that, Twilight is possessed by Smarty Pants. She is possessed as like, seriously. A few days after the incident or possession, call it if you will, all of a sudden, who better than Rarity to investigate? And sure enough, she does. When she opens the door, you see Twilight is just out of the norm, crazy, insane, with the big smile than you can think. And all of a sudden, she's just like, hi, Rarity. What do you want? And then she's like, I'm looking for Spike. I need him to help me with rubies. And then Twilight's just like, I'm sorry, Rarity. Spike is no longer with us anymore. And then she's just like, anymore? What do you mean anymore? as Rarity was just trying to peek inside, like, to check on Spike and, like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? And then all of a sudden, Twilight just responds with, just been catching up with Smarty Pants lately, and then just complete Smarty Pants nonsense, as Rarity calls it. And then Rarity is just like, man, just Twilight, snap out of it. Just let me inside. And then Twilight is just like refusing, and she's just trying to shut the door, like trying to deny and trying to like end the conversation already. But then Rarity just all of a sudden manages to stick her head inside, and then all of a sudden she sees Spike's dead body in the corner. His head is completely backwards with a big gash in his throat, and alongside him is Ash, a Peewee. And then Rarity just freaks out. And then as Twilight sees Rarity freaking out, all of a sudden she uses her magic to pull Rarity inside and then trap her, and Rarity tries to escape, but instead the tree is just covering all the exits. And who is doing this? Who better than Smarty Pants to do the dark magic dirty work? Rarity's trapped, there's just no escape, no hope, and as she's screaming for her life, all of a sudden Twilight is uttering the words repeatedly, just you and me, just you and me, just you and me. And after that, thou ends. I spoke to Miss Smarty Pants today. Now let me tell you about my thoughts. Now, I actually had such a fun experience, not only watching Lostie's reading, but also reading the fanfic itself. I got the chance to read it a few days ago to recollect some, scenes that I forgot before doing this review, and I had such a fun time with it. In fact, I got so into it, you guys, that I ended up doing not only the narrator voice, I even did my Applejack, Rarity, Twilight, and Smarty Pants voices. And I just had such a blast, you guys. It was just so much fun, and seriously, I gotta say this fanfic is pretty well. I mean, for a short story, it was great, but for a story as a whole, like just your general stories that you want to write for the Grimdark community, I feel like there could have been more to put into it. Like, if you're trying to write a complete horror story, you should try to add a bit more into it, like add a bit more origin, add a bit more plot, or like create a series of your own, because I feel like this story can actually be used as a series and stuff, and it was just so amazing to read, you guys. It was just so cool. And however, I also felt like the ending with Rarity dying, I felt like that was kind of a bit illogical. Like, instead of Rarity dying, it would have been better if it was Applejack, because she was in the beginning of the story. And so having her be the concerned one and checking on Twilight actually would have made more sense than Rarity. I mean, Rarity was just, that was just random. But overall though, I still liked it. I still give credit to the writer for putting this type of horror in, because I am a fan of Paranormal Activity horror. And speaking of Paranormal Activity horror, what was actually so related to this fic was Smarty Pants was kind of like Annabelle, and I love that. I love that. But if I had to give a rating on this, you guys, I give it a 2.75 out of 5. I thought it was pretty good, just not as great in my department. I thought it's pretty decent, just not as great. But on the bright side, it does mean that it is better than Cupcakes, just not as good as Friendship Test. But still, 2.75 out of 5, that's a fair rating. So, that is my review, you guys, on I Spoke to Smarty Pants today. Be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you have checked out Lostie's reading of this fic, or even read the fanfic yourself, please tell me down your thoughts in the comments below. So, that is it, you guys. For this episode, we talked and spoke about Miss Smarty Pants, but in the next episode, you better run, you better hide, because when you're in the Everfree Forest and the trees are screaming, you won't survive. That's a wrap, everyone. See ya.
Pointless to